I will not stand up for this. How about
For
that?
other people having ideas that disagree with you? Are your ideas so fragile that you can't stand if someone disagrees with you? I'm serious.
I know.
Even if you're right and she's wrong, she has a right to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like,
If my ideas are
do the
so...
Nazis have a right to speak when they are wrong and I am right?
If my ideas
when
are
they
so
rounded
bad... Hey,
people
stop
like
yelling.
me up
Stop
and
yelling.
threw us in concentration camps.
No one
Yes.
is talking... Do not yell at me, sir. That's rude.
Okay, you need to go. You cannot call her sir, okay?
Okay. I will not be moving. My flyers will stay up, and this event will be happening.
I know that the event is happening.
Yes.
We don't
Wonderful.
want
You don't get to yell at me. That's not deserving of. My flyers can stay up. You don't get to yell at me for pieces of paper.
We don't want more people to go to the event because events like this spread hate. Whether or not you believe,
Okay.
I know that you don't want to spread hate.
Yes.
You particularly. But events like this will spread more hate, and it leads more trans people dying.
Weaponization can be defined as turning something which is not necessarily meant to be used in an adversarial way into an item to facilitate attack on another person. In recent years, you have seen articles about the weaponization of white volunteers or sexuality or race or gender.
Okay, so this is high level creep. Back in 2018, Lovey Ajayi wrote an article about the weaponizing of white women's tears and how dangerous they are to black people. Now, some of you may be familiar with how the Tulsa massacre got started because of white women's tears and how Emmett Till was murdered because of white women's tears. But during the Reconstruction era, there were many instances where black people were hung and black towns were burned to the ground because allegedly a white woman was attacked. As someone who is a mother of 2 black boys, I can tell you the tears of white women really do bother me. People have lost their lives and their freedom because white women know how to turn it on and turn it off when it's convenient.
You might have read about the weaponization of social media as a tool for the government or other groups.
If you're interested in anything social media related to politics and war and current events, I would highly recommend reading this book. It's by Peter Singer and Emerson Brookings, and it's called Like War, the Weaponization of Social Media. And it is about how social media has been weaponized and how it is used in war and politics and different global and local movements. And it's fascinating. It goes through everything from like the Arab Spring to talking about how ISIS and different groups have radicalized people using the internet. It talks about Taylor Swift and different social media armies of people who aren't necessarily used for bad like typical war, but can be used to create like mass movements. And it's a fascinating read. The authors are very credible. Would also recommend following them on Twitter. This is it. It's well researched, and at the end they actually talk about how we can use social media as a society and world to like bring truth to light and not bury it. So I would recommend. If you're in
You probably have not read about the weaponization of trans identity because the problem is rarely acknowledged, even though videos exemplifying this issue make the rounds very often. Take, for instance, the It's Ma'am GameStop video.
Young man in here.
Excuse me, it's ma'am. It is ma'am.
I can call the police if you'd like me to. You need to settle down.
You need to settle down and mind your business, okay?
Both of you guys?
Ma'am, once again, ma'am.
I said both of you.
No, you said sir. Once again, it's ma'am.
I actually said both of you guys. It was general.
Right beforehand, you fucking said sir.
Sir? Okay.
Motherfucker, take it outside. If you want to call me sir again, I will show you a fucking sir.
I apologize.
Motherfucker.
I apologize now.
The video is now so well known that it's been memeified, and often just that one line is enough for the average person to know what you are talking about. The trans woman in this video, Tiffany Moore, was primarily reported on as being a victim of transphobic injustice with a justified violent reaction to the violent crime of misgendering. Reports on his criminal activities were never included in these mainstream reports.
A woman charged with throwing a brick through a home and pepper spraying 2 children is telling her side of the story only to Channel 11's Amy Marcinkwitz. And Amy is live tonight. Amy, she told you she is the victim?
That's right. Actually, David, she told me she was targeted because she's transgender. I was talking with her over the phone most of the day today, and just a few minutes ago she texted me and said that she is publicly speaking in just a few hours, and we will be there. Only Channel 11 there as transgender community activist Dina Stanley turned herself in Friday morning. Ambridge police say she is the suspect in a pepper spray assault on this woman and her 2 kids, ages 15 and 7. Police say what started as a kid fight turned very violent when the adults got involved.
My 7-year-old was screaming to the top of his lungs. He couldn't see, crying. It took hours and hours for us to get it off of him.
I talked to Dina Stanley over the phone numerous times. She's not ready to go on camera, but did detail her story to me and to a fundraising site she started to help pay her legal and medical bills. She says, they were coming from all directions at me, yelling slurs. They said I was a man, a he, she. I was thrown to the ground and bricked in the head. I was fearful for my life. Ambridge police dispute that and most everything she put out on the internet, especially after learning she's raised almost $2,000 on her story.
She did go to the victim's home, got out of the car, and started a problem there. And that is the story that we have from both the victims and independent witnesses.
Another trans woman who I previously reported on is Dina Stanley, who is the president and founder of Trans Uniting and a board member of the Delta Foundation of Pittsburgh. He was arrested for fighting a 15-year-old, pepper sprayed the child and their 7-year-old sibling, and threw a brick into their residence which had only barely missed hitting an infant inside the home. The circumstances of his arrest were not made clear in posts asking for funding, which drew attention away from his actions and relied on his identity to protect him from scrutiny.
Former swimmer Riley Gaines was physically assaulted following a speech to students about saving women's sports. As Gaines' husband, Lewis Barker, shared, the attacker was a man in a woman's dress. He hit her several times, after which the frightened Gaines barricaded herself in the room. She was also ambushed by trans activists who yelled at her as police escorted Gaines to safety.
Other examples can be seen in violence at women's marches or against female protesters, against those like Fred Sargent and any others who disagree with trans ideology. In many cases, a trans person's identity as trans is used as a way to shut down conversations, deflect blame and consequences, and to gain power within a situation. You can see this in less prominent cases, such as on Reddit, where a female partner will be led to believe that she is in the wrong for asserting boundaries or feeling uncomfortable with their trans partner. A major aspect of weaponizing trans identity is the idea that being a victim or minority offers special privileges, including authority over others, and that victimization purifies, meaning that if one is oppressed enough, they can't do any wrong.
Do you identify as black? No, it's a serious question, because you might not identify. Can you please put the mic? Thank you. Okay.
When I walked into the room,
I am not done with my question.
Oh, young lady,
I'm just asking you to listen to me.
And I'm about to answer the first question.
But I didn't finish my question.
Okay. Yeah, I'm black.
This stems from a hijacking of programs and teachings about addressing the impact of oppression. The historical and continued oppression of women has resulted in a need to address issues like sexism in hiring or education, additional opportunities or spaces for women due to often being overlooked, and specific rules allowing to protect discrimination due to differences such as how women can breastfeed and get pregnant and therefore are protected from being fired just for getting pregnant or needing to pump at work. Those who weaponize their identity often note these experiences and feel as if they are not receiving those considerations which they consider to be privileges instead of reimbursement for past and continuing inequalities. They use a fear of stereotyping and bigoted behavior to protect themselves from criticism, as any attempt to point out their behavior is often met with claims of being transphobic.
White queers started becoming the morality police and started using political correctness as a way to assert power over Black and brown people in the queer community so they don't feel like they lost control.
As Mark G.B. writes in On the Continued Weaponization of Identity, anyone who believes that their identity provides immunization against criticism is either a dangerous fool or a deliberate manipulator. The person who is weaponizing their identity upon hearing the criticism makes a false equivalence and reacts as if they are the victim of an unfair attack. If this emotional blackmail works on the critic, the victim switches roles to that of persecutor. The criticism is suppressed, the false equivalence is strengthened in the group mind, and the victim/persecutor is now free to continue doing whatever it was that attracted the criticism. In other words, it is important to understand how identity can be weaponized to protect an individual from criticism and to justify actions of violence, especially those that would be considered unjust if anyone else was committing them. Because trans women are considered to be more oppressed than women, gay people, and even disabled people, they are often prioritized, which in turn illustrates that the status quo hasn't changed much at all, only that certain men have learned to use it to their advantage, as the majority of trans women are middle-class white men.
Oh my God, people. Queerness is a political identity, okay? A person doesn't have to be straight, but labeling a person, especially a celebrity, as queer when they haven't self-identified that way and aren't socially and politically read as queer. I'm talking socially and politically read as queer, right? Not performing queerness for social capital, okay? That is the difference. It's pointless and irreverent. Why are we doing that?
Identity politics positions terms of identity as being shorthand descriptors of personality. Queer thus means liberal, gender nonconforming, anti-tradition. Trans woman means oppressed, trans misogyny facing, female ally, and so on. This doesn't account for the reality of diverse populations. Trans women are more conservative than liberal, which shouldn't be surprising given how many admit to being incels or Nazis prior to their eggs cracking. Many gay people are conservative or moderate-leaning and disagree with liberal politics. Of course, this is not to say that one cannot identify trends in populations or that commonalities don't exist, merely that the ones that you are supposed to think of when hearing trans woman or queer may not be the accurate ones, but instead the traits they wish to be identified with. In many of these videos, some posted by bystanders and others by trans people themselves, one can see how trans identification, and therefore victimization, is used to shield the violence and misogyny often shared by trans women against others. You'll note that the feelings of fear, that misgendering or exclusion from single-sex spaces, are actually anger, and furthermore, anger at not being treated the way that they believe that they should be. When one calls out misbehavior, disagrees with their ideology, or doesn't offer submission via preferred pronouns or treatment, what is actually a very normal treatment is construed as being discrimination and cruelty. Hence why misgendering and accurately identifying individual sex is called violence, while doxing, harassing, and shutting down women's spaces is fair play. This, dear viewers, is where we part. I saw a video recently, which I've included in this one, where you can see, like, you're not scared that someone's calling you male. You're angry that they're calling you male. And yet, in all these posts online, especially in online spaces, they'll say, I'm shaking, I'm so terrified. You're angry, you're upset. You want to commit violence. Because when I'm scared, if I'm not thinking about committing violence against the person that I'm scared of. I'm thinking about escape. I'm thinking about how I can be safe. And sure, some people do have a fight response in response to fear, but you're not scared of someone calling you he. That's not a thing to be scared of. You're just upset that they're not bowing down to what you want them to do and say. Anyhow, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.